haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Chav Vav Mid Beis, starting with Daf Chav Vav Mid Aleph, 3 lines from the bottom. The Gemara continues to discuss the situation of Hano Haba La'odam Ba'al Korchoy. That means a person gets benefit incidentally from a certain thing that's Aser Behano. For example, a person is walking down the street and it's Chol Hamoed Pesach, where it's Aser to have Hana from Chametz, and lo and behold, there is a Goyish, a bakery that is baking fresh goods, and he now has the smell in the air as he's walking in that area. Does he have to then turn away and go to a different road, a different path? Or no, he can continue along his path. It's a machlokes in the situation where we say that it is lo efshar, but it's kimechavein. That means that it would be a tircha for him to circumvent and go a different route. But still he's mechavein. Nonetheless, he is mechavein and he's going towards that smell and he's allowing them himself to get hana, benefit from that smell. According to Abaye, it is muteres. He doesn't have to then go around. He can continue on his path. However, according to Rava, it is osir, and he'd have to then circumvent that area. Says the Gemara, trying to bring a raya for Rava, that's osir. Toshma, hichnisa l'rivka v'dosha kisheira. Here we're talking about an egel. For egla arufa, there the egel has to be an egel that was not then doing malacha in order to be used for an egla arufa. We spent time last time explaining that an egla arufa is when a person is found dead, and that dead body, it's not known who killed the dead body, who killed that person. So therefore, the Ziknei Ha'ir, they walk and they determine what is the closest city, whereby then they take an egel, they make a declaration that they're absolved from any guilt, and they decapitate the head of the egel. But again, it has to be an egel that's used for egla aruf that did not do any malacha. So it says over here, hichnisa l'rivka, if the owner of the egel put the egel together with a team of cows, and amongst those cows was its mother in order to then nurse from its mother, v'dosha kishera. And not only did it nurse from its mother, but it also then incidentally then did disha, it then threshed and did a malacha. Nonetheless, the din is, according to the Reisha of this Brisa, that the egel is an egla arufa, can be used for an egla arufa, because the owner, when it put its calf together with its cow, it only intended that it nurse. It didn't want that it should go ahead and do malacha. Bishvil shetinek v'tidoish psula. However, the Brisa goes on to say, if the owner intended that not only that it goes and nurses from its mother, but also then does a malach of disha, then it becomes psula. It's now invalid to be used for egla arufa. Ask the Gemara now, v'ho hocha deloy efshar v'kamechavein v'ktani psula. Behold, here it's a situation deloy efshar, because the calf needs to nurse from its mother, and the owner has kavana. That means that the owner wants that it does malacha, because it does want it to be then dosh. It wants to do the disha, and yet it teaches psula. So we see from the seif of this brisa, like Rava, says the Gemara, that this is not a prior for Rava, because shiny hasam there, the reason why it's psula is not because when we say something is loy efshar ukemechavein is asura. No, it's for a different reason. Dirshu, because it says in the following pasuk in regards to egla aruf. I'll read the entire pasuk. It says like this: V'hoya ha'ir akroiva el hachalal, the city that's closest to the dead body. V'lochu ziknei ha'ir, the elders of the city come. They take hahi eglas bokar, they take the calf. Asher loy ubad bo, that no work was done with it. Asher loy moshcha be'oil, that did not then hold, it did not carry an oil, a yoke. That's the requirement for an egla rufa. So the Gemara explains now why this egla was psula. Dirshu, it says asher loy ubad bo. That means that no work was done with it. It hadn't done any work. Mikol mokoim. in any case, that means even without the owner. And therefore, if it did do any malacha, then it will be psula, will be invalid. Ask the Gemara, ihachi, if that's the case, then afilu reisha nami, even in the case where the owner does put the calf only for nursing, and incidentally the calf goes and together with the other cows is dosh, does a malach of threshing. So why don't we say that that's also invalid? Yet the Reisha says it's ksheira. On top of chav vavam and beis, Gemara answers and explains halo dam ya elalaha. That's only comparable to the following. The following brisa speaks about a para aduma. A para aduma also states in the pasuk that it can't have an ol, it can't have a yoke on it. And Chazal learn out from there, also from the igla arufa, that can have any malacha done with it as well. Otherwise it becomes invalid to be a para aduma. So you can't use its ashes to then metaher the tamei. So says the Gemara using the brisa, shochan alel oif kishera. If a bird flies and perches itself on top of this para aduma, so now the para aduma is carrying the oif. In other words, the weight of the oif is on its back. So it states over here kshera, because over here the owner doesn't, it's not nicha to the owner. He doesn't want that this oif be on top of the para aduma. And therefore, since it's not nicha, we say that it's not considered to be a malacha that makes the para aduma invalid, and it remains kosher. Ola alel zachar psula. However, the Sefer goes on to say, if an a bull goes and mates together with the para aduma, then it makes the para aduma invalid, because it is nicha for the owner to have offspring. So here we have the reisha that is parallel to the reisha of the previous brisa. That means that just like over here in regards to the para aduma, we're saying when the bird, it lands on the back of this para aduma, since it's not necha to the owner, therefore it remains kosher to be a para aduma and you can use its ashes. Similarly, the reisha of the previous brisa in regards to egla arufa, when the owner merely attaches the egel, the calf, together with a team of cows in order only to nurse from the cow, and then subsequently does malacha, that's not necha to the owner. The Mefarshim explained because the owner of the calf doesn't want the calf to do malacha, because it'll machlish, it'll weaken the calf. It'll then it won't be good for the calf, and therefore it's not necha to him, and also therefore remains kosher. In the seifa, just like in the seifa over here by the para aduma, here the owner, it's necha for the owner that the para aduma mates with the bull, and therefore, since it's necha, it makes it invalid. It's as if now it's considered to be a malacha when it mates with the bull. Similarly, the seifa of the egla arufa, in that case, when the owner attaches the egel with intention not only for it to nurse from its mother, but also to do malacha, that invalidates the egel from being an egla arufa, because again, that's now considered to be a malacha that's necha to the owner. The Gemara now says, my taima explains what's the reason. Omar Rab Papa iksiv ovad v'karin ovad. If it was written in the pasuk of egla arufa, again, which we learn paraduma from, and said ovad, it worked, and we would also read it ovad, that it worked, then ad da'ovid ba'iyu, until the owner itself does work with the animal actively. Iksiv ubad v'karin and ubad, if it was written in the pasuk ubad, and it was read ubad, which means it was work that has been done, and it was read work that has been done, ubad, then afilu memela nami, even if it means that the owner even if the owner doesn't have any input over here, it does it on its own, without the owner. Hashtod, but now dichsiv ovad v'karina ubad. But now that it's written the word ovad, ayin beis dalet, and it's pronounced, it's read ubad. So ubad dumya de ovad. It has to be that ubad. The Gemara learns out is duma. Dumya is similar to ovad. Ma ovad de nechale af ubad de nechale. Just as when it worked, if it would work with an active use of the owner, then it would be considered to be neicha to the owner because the owner wants it to work. So too, in the case of ubad, when it's without the owner, it's at least with the nichus, it's neicha to the owner. And that's the requirement over here. And that's why the difference between the reisha and the seif in the case of egla arufa. Again, in the reisha, granted over here, the owner does attach it only for the nursing, and it does therefore afterwards still do malacha. But since it's not neicha, it's not going to then be something that invalidates the egel to be egel arufa. Gemara now brings the following, trying to bring a proof for Rava. Toshma aveda lo yishat chena. When it comes to a person who found a lost article, and it comes to a beged, it states over here, he shall not take that beged. Lo al gabe mitav lo al gabe mogud litzarko. He cannot take the beged and drape it over a bed or a peg if it's going to be for the tzarich of his own benefit. That means if he drapes it over a bed in his house to then make his house more beautiful, to beautify his house, then he's not allowed to do that. Goes on to say in the Brisa, however, but he could go ahead and drape that beged on his bed or on a peg in the house if it's for the benefit of the beged, because he wants to air out the beged. That's the proper and responsible way to take care of the beged of a hashavas haveda. However, the Brisa continues, Nizdamana loy orchim, if he gets guests that come, lo yishat chena lo al gabe mitav lo al gabe mogud, then he cannot drape it not on his bed and not on his peg, lo al bein litzarka, whether it's for the benefit of the beged or the benefit of his own benefit to get kavod that he wants to beautify his house. Either way, he cannot go ahead and drape it over. So we see lachara from here that since it says bein litzarka, that means even litzarka, even for the sake of the beged, you cannot drape it over the bed or the peg. We have a case where it's loy efshar, because here, the one who found the Aveda, the responsible way of taking care of it, is draping it so that it doesn't get moths on it and gets eaten up by the moths. And therefore, even still, it says you cannot do that. So, l'chor, we have a raya for Rava, that in the case where it's loy efshar, and he's miskavein, which over here he does have kavana, then we would say that it's osir. On that, the Gemara says, no, you have no proof for Rava, because shiny hasom, there it's different. The kole law, because there he destroys it, he burns it, meaning imishum inabisha imishum ganove. Either because the reason why he cannot drape it over the bed, even for the benefit of the beged, is because they'll cause the people who are his orchim to look at the beged, and they'll give it an ayin ra, and it'll ruin, it'll destroy the beged because of the koyach of the ayin ra. Or one of the guests will see this beautiful beged, and he might come to steal it. For that reason, Chazal say that even if it's going to then benefit for the beged, he cannot go ahead and spread out the beged in front of the guests. But not because that it's also because lo efshar kimechavin. Now the Gemara turns to trying to explain the second Lashon, which is really the first of the two Lashonos. The first of the two Lashonos states that there's a machlokes Abayi and Rava in a case of efshar v'lo mechavin. That means that it's possible without much difficulty to go ahead and avoid the situation. It's easily avoidable. And it's, however, v'lo mechavin. He's not mechavin. Says the Gemara Toshma, let's bring a proof, and this time it's going to be a proof against Rava. Moichrek sus, moichrin kedarkon. Here it states, those who are selling garments, they are allowed to wear the garments, to sell the garments, to then show, to be a showcase for those garments. Even though those garments have shatnez, a mixture of wool and linen together. Ubilvad, provide that he's not wearing the garments in order to then benefit himself from the elements, from the cold or from the heat. Otherwise, he can wear those garments in order to then showcase the garments to sell them to his potential customers. The Brisa goes on to say, "V'hatznuin," those who are pious, they're called snuin. Mafshin la'achareim b'makil. They, instead of wearing them, they want to stay away from the potential, anything that could have a shmek a smell of Isser, in this case it's Shatnes, and they go more lechumra. They take the garment and they put it on a makil, on a stick. In our modern times it means on a mannequin. Says the Gemara, here they have do it. It would be efshar. They can go ahead and put it on a mannequin just like the tznuin. And it's a situation where they're not mechavein, because they're not having kavanah for the benefit of these clothes, that it should protect them from the elements, from the cold or for the heat. So here we have a case, and it says mefurish in the brisa that over here that this is something that is going to be efshar and lo mechavein, and nonetheless we say that it's mutter. Says the Gemara, tiyufta lemanda masi lishne kama derava tiyufta. This is a refutation against the one who teaches the first lashon of the Gemara, that there's a machlokes Abayi and Rava in the case of efshar v'lo mechavein, and this will be a refutation against that opinion of Rava, that Rava, according to this statement, according to this lashon of the Gemara, that Rava would maintain that it's osir. Here you have a brayso mefurash, not like Rava, like Abayi, and therefore it's only like the second lashon that we wanted to bring, that there's a machlokes Abayi v'Rava, according to the second lashon, which is the opposite. There it's lo efshar v'kimechavim.